Welcome to Rise Up with Robby, the live stream where politics, sports, and faith come together to inspire, challenge, and empower. Your host is Robby Wells, former NCAA Division I football coach, motivational speaker, author, and former presidential candidate. Every week, we will tackle today's biggest issues, explore the world of sports, and discover how faith and purpose can help you overcome any obstacle. Get ready for bold conversations and practical inspiration. It's time to rise up.
Well, hi, and welcome to the Rise Up with Robby podcast. And I'm Robby Wells, and I'm coming to you live in Roanoke, Virginia today. We've got a special guest today, a one and only bona fide race car driver. And we're going to talk with Brian Weber in just a few minutes and some of the great things that has happened recently with his career, as well as going back through some of his history in racing. But we're going to go to a quick break right now. And when we come back, we're going to jump right on into it. So watch this, and we'll be right back.
I'm Robby Wells. I was a former college football coach, also ran for president of the United States. Understand this, you're going to go through some dark times. Some of you in here may be going through them, and that's why you're new to this business, okay? Midnight's the darkest part of any day. Just remember, midnight does not last very long, because at 12:01 it's morning, and it's time to rise up, and it's time to blast off. Understand this, you're going to get better and better and better. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay to fail. Fail big. Because if you fail big, you're going to learn from it and you're going to move on from it. But always take advice from those that have been there and they have done that. You see, whether you are black or white, young or old, male or female, a member of the LGBTQ community, whatever your religion may be, we're all very unique in this room right here. We can celebrate our differences because we've got one common bond. We are all Americans and we all work for the greatest company on the face of this planet, Family First Life.
Rise Up USA is a full-service life insurance brokerage firm. And if you've got any life insurance needs, any health insurance needs, get in touch with us at riseupwithrobby.com. You can leave us an email. We'll be glad to get one of our agents right over to you. But let's get right into what today is all about. Today, I've got a special treat for all you NASCAR fans, all you racing fans out there. I've got none other than Brian Weber, race car driver, entrepreneur, good friend of mine that's just coming off a big race in Iowa at the Iowa Motor Speedway. Hey, Brian, how's it going today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking me. Thanks for having me on, Robby. I'm glad it wasn't yesterday because that trip back from Iowa is a long week and it's a long ride. And when I got back, of course, I'd been gone for a week, so my other businesses needed the attention that I gave it to them yesterday, catching up businesses and sleep. So today was a good day for this.
Well, that's good. You know, and a lot of people don't actually realize that most race car drivers actually have other professions, full-time professions, and they do the racing on the weekends, and they've got a staff that has to kind of hold things together. I know that's been the case for you with your construction business. How long have you been doing the construction as well as the racing?
Wow. Well, I mean, when I was a kid, I was a union carpenter in New York, and I was racing in the NASCAR Busch North Series. Luckily, we work 35-hour work weeks, and I'd bug out on Friday afternoon and go racing, and then be back for work on Monday. But construction, probably 80% of my adult life I've worked in construction at some capacity. I messed around with a resume just to see if I could actually make a resume about a year ago, and it was all me. I've signed my own checks most of my life in contracting, all over the country, retail build outs and so forth. I'm not doing what I did at one time. There was a point where I was working in 15 states at a time. I had 60 people working with us and 10 in the office, but we don't do that anymore. Now I pick and choose projects that I'm interested in, friends of family. We do I'm a construction service provider, and I don't want to ever be the guy with 60 people working for me again. Because it just gives me a lot more freedom to do it this way and diversify also. I dabble into other things, as you well know. So.
Oh yeah, I do. And for those of you that are watching today on this show, you know that if you've known me for a while, you know that I'm very transparent. This guy that's on here with me today actually saved my life back about 8 years ago. I was living in Atlanta, and then all of a sudden, I literally just taken a home there and a new career right there in Atlanta. And about 3 months into it, the job went away and I'm stuck. And then all of a sudden, Brian was working construction there, and I didn't know anything about construction at all, Brian. And you know that. But Brian, out of the goodness of his heart, said, "Hey, man, come on over here and help me." And so, Brian, I don't know if there's such a thing when you go to heaven, you get stars in your crown. But if there is, you're going to have about 5 or 6.
Well, that job, and I didn't know at that time that when I took that project, there was about a 15-week project. It was probably 8 miles from where you were living. It was
right.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. But then our timings both worked out, and that's faith and intervention from the Father. There's no question in my mind, because when you look back at those intersections and all those things that connected people to people, coincidences can't be that many.
That's correct. Oh, listen, I completely agree. And for those of you that are out there, if you don't believe in God, just give me a call sometime, and I'll give you a reason why, or a bunch of reasons why I do believe, because of some of the things that have happened, the miracles that still occur, that have occurred in my life. And I know they've occurred in yours too, Brian.
Sure.
I think about the time that your race car went over the wall.
Yeah, that was.
And that was literally looking at that. It looked like nobody should have survived that. But I think you came out pretty much unscathed on that one, did you not?
Yeah, I had a couple little bruises in my armpits from the seat. I flew over the wall of Bowman Gray Stadium. That's the only time I've ever made it on the news. I was on NBC and CBS local affiliate news that night for Brian Weber over the wall. You can find it on YouTube. But yeah, that wasn't a good day. It was a good day before it wasn't. I was running pretty well in that race. I'd moved up a number of spots, and something happened in the car and it twitched, and the next thing I was an airplane. So,
I've listened to a lot of the stories that you told me, and some of them it's just hard to believe that you actually, at one point in your career, raced against one of the greatest to ever race, and that was Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator. Tell us a little bit about that.
I told this story last week to the Motor Racing Network that on Friday, the day of the race, last week, celebrated 38 years to the day that I raced with Dale Earnhardt Sr. in my very first NASCAR Busch Series event at Indianapolis Raceway Park. So it was August 7th, 1988. I was just a 22-something-year-old kid from Long Island that had a race car that was eligible, and I had $1,146 in my pocket. And we made a map to go to Indy, which was like 18 hours away. And it was an invitational because I was a regular on the Busch North Series. That I was part of that. And yeah, that's part of the path that I came to North Carolina. I went to race in Indy, and Earnhardt was there. He actually finished 2 spots ahead of me. We both had some ailments. I think I made about 100 laps. He made 104 laps or something, but I did meet him that day, and obviously met a lot of the other guys that day. And that was the beginning. And then it rained at that event, and another competitor was seeking shelter from it was torrential, and he ran into my trailer to get out of the rain, and we started talking. And that led to me moving to North Carolina, which long story longer, he was a contractor building retail stores around the country, and I had done some contracting through the union and my dad's company at the time. And we wound up doing a project for him in New York City that he subcontracted to us. And then that opened the door, and then I came to visit North Carolina and worked in building his new office. And next thing you know, I literally moved to the town where his office was and started, pecking around looking for racing opportunities.
Oh, yeah, and I know that he's gone, but I believe that the facility is still there, the DEI facility, is it not?
Oh, yeah, it is. I don't know what's going on out there, but yeah, it is.
Well, I was very fortunate that you made that move, because literally 12 years ago, a little over 12 years ago now, was when I met you. And
has it been that long?
We were, I know it's been a while, man, time flies, but I had met you at Jennifer Jo Cobb's garage. I don't know if you remember this, but
I do.
You came in with your bus.
Right, you're right.
In fact, if you look right over my shoulder, that's the truck. That's Jennifer Jo's truck that we sponsored in the NASCAR Truck Series.
That's right. Yeah, I remember we had some trouble with the bus. Was it my bus or was it your? No, it was my bus.
It was your bus, because you were the one that told me I needed to get a bus. I was like,
right, that's right.
Yeah. And you were like, it's a rolling billboard.
We had the Coma Unwind Relaxation Drink bus because Jennifer had an open house and we were sponsoring her. That's right.
Right.
I do remember we've given out some samples and such at her open house, and that's what led you to getting your first bus.
That's exactly right, because I was sponsoring her too in that race, in the Charlotte race. You show up with the bus, and I was like, man, this is something. You said, well, you need to get a bus for your campaign. It's a rolling billboard. I was like, I don't know how to get a bus. And then you helped me find that bus that we got out of Anderson, South Carolina. I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah.
But it was a bus that was at a very small church there in Anderson. The church only had 30 some odd people in the whole membership. The bus was bigger than the church, and it was sitting there in a field next to it. It was caked up with mud. And so the pastor was wanting like $10,000 for this bus. And I said, Pastor, I'm just going on a shoestring budget. I've got a few people that are helping me. I don't know if we can come up with $10,000 for this campaign. He said, well, son, how much do you think you could come up with? I said, my dad was a minister too. I said, I know the Bible. I said, 7 is the number of completion in the Bible. I said, how about 7,000? He threw his hands up. He goes, praise God. 7,000 it is. That's how we got that bus.
I remember. Then you got it wrapped, and yeah.
We actually paid more for the wrap than we did for the bus.
Probably so, yeah. You put a lot of miles on that bus all over the country.
Went all over the place. Yeah. But anyway, I want you to tell everybody, because I think this is the most interesting story about Howard Dean back when he was running for president. I believe that was in 2004, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, 22 years ago, Howard Dean was running for president. You were actually doing lead-up speeches and going around and helping him campaign around the country. And then tell us about actually having the chance to have him sponsor your race car.
Well, what happened was I was racing at the time in the NASCAR Busch Series, and I was trying to find sponsorship, naturally, but the sponsorship angle really didn't. I mean, I didn't do what I did because of money. I did it because I thought he was the best candidate to be the president of the United States. I'd spent quite a bit of time in Vermont with my Busch North days. And I knew what he had done in Vermont, taking it from an economy that was not growing to a huge deficit, He actually inherited the governorship when the governor, who was a Republican, died, and then he was the lieutenant governor. He became governor overnight, and then he stayed governor for a multitude. I mean, maybe 3 or 4 terms.
Right.
So I had friends of friends. Vermont's a tight family of people, and at first they didn't know what they were getting from him, but he had told them he wanted all the budgets from all the divisions of the state, and then he went on the news and he said, "I'm raising the taxes. We're going to do it for 2 years, and we're going to lower them back down, and we're going to get our house in order." And everybody was mad.
Yep.
They were like, taxes never come down. They were mad. Everything. It was a mad society. But he had nothing to lose because he had already the governor. Well, 2 years later, he lowered the taxes back down, and they had a balanced budget. Less people incarcerated, more help for moms. Medical leaves, education was up, fuel was down. Everything that he said he was going to do virtually happened. Now there were a lot of there was a tough period for him in that 2 years, but he did what he said, and then he got reelected 3 times after that. But anyway, there was some bloggers that were that I had gotten to know, young people, he had a huge young following. He basically was the internet-driven candidate. I mean, there was a lot.
He was the first.
That was the first one with hundreds of, truckers for Dean, police for Dean, unions for Dean. There was a lot of that. And I started following it, and I already knew a lot about his positions, And next thing you know, I'm getting a call from his brother and asking me would I be interested in doing some campaigning in the South. And I was like, yeah. Okay. I never really had at that point did a lot of, speaking in front of big crowds.
Yeah.
But I said, sure, I'll give it a try. And, not a few days later, we're in South Carolina in some community center, and we're hearing from barbershops that have to close because they can't charge $5 for a haircut anymore. And I'm like, I'm a young American, and this is sad. I mean, this guy's been cutting hair for 50 years, and he can't charge $5 for a haircut. Something wrong with that. And so I started actually learning more about politics, geopolitics, economics. The budget was we thought it was out of control then. Look what it is now. But back then it was $46,000 per adult, to pay it off. For a lifetime. Now it's it's never going to get paid off now. It's impossible.
Right.
But,
unless somebody hits a reset button, everybody just goes back to zero.
I mean, and I don't see how it can. But
you're right.
I think it's so bad now they don't even care anymore. But and maybe they're right. But next thing you know, at that point I hadn't met Governor Dean personally, but I was with his brother a fair amount.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, and then my PR girl at the time, and I'm not going to leave her name in here, but her bestest friend was actually in the White House as a Republican with Laura Bush. She was like an assistant to Laura Bush, and her family was very Republican. And she took some ridicule to be my PR girl at the time, a woman, traveling with me to these events. But she told me flat out, I'm a Republican, but I don't have any problem with his positions. He's a moderate person with, I'm here for the people. And, at the end of the day, I don't want to say she voted for him. She may or may not have. Well, she probably didn't because we didn't get that far. But the next thing I know, I'm an ESPN cold pizza TV show, on doing a discussion. And next thing you know, I'm in New Hampshire for the primaries, freezing to death. And I spent half a day with Governor Dean's mom, going to nursing homes, trying to rally, voters. It was a very, very interesting experience seeing him connect with people. And, he's a physician from Burlington, Vermont. And the best I can tell, I'm sure that, we all have our little dark spots, but I never saw a dark spot in his. He's a righteous guy with a good plan. And I pretty much feel like the party itself probably gave him, railroaded him somewhat with the Howard Dean scream, which was a microphone glitch. And you really couldn't even hear him scream.
Could you imagine today? I mean, today he just get more polling points.
Yeah, today, there's no telling. The whole world's upside down, Robbie. I mean, it's, people are, we've allowed the politicians to drag us into this, what's real and what's not real. And I'm sure that's why Liz McMahon from the WCW or whatever they call it, the wrestling stuff, they're all they're all looking for points and getting people angry and agitated and fighting. And as far as I'm concerned, we have a lot of issues. The God that I worship, the Father that I worship, looks for us to be closer to nature and things that are like nature. Harmony and empathy and friendship and companionship and love and call me a liberal, call me anything you want. I don't care. But I want to live in a world where people do the right thing for the right reasons and take on the things that are not healthy and not in alignment with nature. I mean, again, I don't care what faith you are or what part of the world you're from or what skin you have. People have to get back to what's in alignment with good humanity, because if we don't have good humanity, it doesn't matter where you're from or what color your skin is or what you personally are doing, because if we're so far from good humanity, we're not going to be around in 500 years.
Ryan, you bring up some really good points there. I've always said that our country is so divided, and the way that we can once and for all achieve true greatness is to erase those lines of separation that have divided the people here in this country. And that's one thing I know that you have always stood for, and I really appreciate. Let's go back. You were actually getting ready to drive for Howard Dean when that scream occurred and everything just kind of went haywire with his campaign at that point.
Yeah, it was my team. We had at the time there was the early parts of Citizen United where donors, there was a touchy subject, who could support what with money, and but we had two major associations that had sent me copies of deposit checks to start the season off at Daytona. And it was a good deal. It was more than I'd ever had to go racing and support Governor Dean. And then, of course, the scream happened and he got derailed and the whole thing changed. There is an irony to this, because the very first thing I said to Howard Dean's brother is when I met him for the first time, I said to him, "Jim, Brian Weber, I hear your brother wants to be the most powerful Democrat in the United States of America." And he kind of giggled and he said, "Yeah, something like that." I said, "Well, I like what he's talking about." And then 6 months later, he was not going to be president. But 8 months later, he was the most powerful Democrat in America. He had been voted in as the chair of the Democratic National Committee. And then he worked, diligently for several years to turn some states that were red to blue and purple. And, there was, invest in people first instead of color, instead of their affiliations. And, hey, I voted for Republicans a fair amount of times in my life as well. I've got plenty of friends that are Republicans. Myself, I consider myself a conservative in some things. I'm liberal, but I'm more of a libertarian generically. But I'm not a party line guy. I'm not going to vote up and down a party line for people that I don't believe in or don't trust. And, because I do believe that it takes more than just one. It's a very interesting industry. But the last thing I want to say about the division in America, you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? We were never like this. We were not this people with this type of division. There were some squirrels. You look back hundreds of years. There were some bad elements. But what's happening now is it's a machine. This is not just I don't like my neighbor. This is not just you to wake up and look at your scroll through your social media things, your algorithms. Man, there are machines pumping out, memes and things that they're coming into they're inciting people to disagree. Now, I don't know, if it's governments, if it's the opposition. I read a lot, and my feeling is that these machines, these propagandists, they're marketing. They're just full blown paid marketeers for personal gain. Some gain money,
Yeah.
some want privilege, some want to control the world. But at the end of the day, our people in America are not as divided as we're shown, and that there is a massive undertaking across the country, in our country, to divide people. Whether it's like, how many times did you hear the word communism in your reading about politics in America up until 2 months ago? I hadn't heard the word
You
communism
wouldn't hear it. That's
in
right.
10 years. Well, now it's a talking point. We are now being invaded by communists.
Yep.
2 months before that, we're being invaded by, something else. 2 months before, and it's like, people in America have to wake up that this is not normal. This is not normal. This is a machine
And you
pouring.
know what, Brian? You're so
Right.
right. And I've always said that, especially in the past couple of years, that common sense isn't so common anymore. We replace common sense with a lot of nonsense, really on both sides. Like you say,
Absolutely.
you've got the conservative, the far right conservative, and they're putting out all the memes with the hatred. But then you got the far left side, and it just trying to make people believe that a man can be a woman can be a man, that men should be playing in the WNBA. What's our world come to, man?
Again, but you got to ask yourself, where did it come from?
Where did it come
Where?
from?
I mean, I just watched a congressional hearing about trans athletes in college,
Yeah,
and the congressman said, how many people are there out of the 600,000 students?
right.
There's eight.
That's about it.
There are eight. We have so many problems in this world, and there are eight
And
people
it's
that,
almost like they want to make a mountain out of a molehill. A lot of times, they really do.
there is no question about it. And, in defense of both sides of the political spectrum, you've got some left-sided people pushing so far left, just because it's like, if they don't push so far left, they don't end up in the middle. And
Right.
if you're on the right, you don't push so far to the right, you don't end up in
You
the
don't end
middle.
up in the middle.
But the idea that we're so divided, and I've been I've been to 16 countries. I've given speeches in Moscow. I've been very blessed with my business travels, and I've met a lot of people in a lot of places, and they're looking at us like, what's happening over there? They're looking at us like we're a bunch of kids in a sandbox, just wanting to there's not one bully anymore. Everybody's a bully.
Well, I look at Russia, and as I've become an adult, just thinking about the propaganda that's putting out there, really from all governments now,
Of course.
across the globe. But if you think about it, you've been to Russia, I've been to China, I've been to India, you've been in 15 different countries. There's good people everywhere.
Absolutely.
There's good
That-
people everywhere. Now there's some boneheads everywhere too. But for the most part, everywhere I've been, I have met some really, really good people, and I've been on a lot of different continents. I haven't been to Antarctica, but I've been all over, and I've seen a lot of really, really good people. And yet we try to vilify anybody that's not us.
I 100% agree. And when you look at the globe from outer space, we're all just one people on a rock,
Yes.
floating. And it's you're not wrong. I mean, it's just, and that's my point. Our American society is being manipulated by other sources. The flavor of the week now, of course, is the anti-Muslim the movement against anti-Muslims. A lot of people in their own defense, they just don't know facts. They don't read about facts. They don't care to know about facts. They live in a smaller bubble than some of us do. And like for example, in Iran, there are more Christians and there are more Jews in Iran than there are in Israel. There are more Christians in Iran than there are in Israel. So and they've been living in harmony. Of course, they do have a problem with authoritarian, without, with these other things where they say they've killed people, and and obviously, again, anything to do with killing, I'm not in. I'm out. I don't care.
Right.
I'm not a anti anything. I'm an anti taking human life for no apparent reason on the and then it makes me really boil when you use it to protect your beliefs or your faith. Now, if somebody's trying to hurt you or your family, defending yourself, I'm all about it. I'm all about guns. I have guns, but this whole idea that we have to preemptively kill generations of children because they may become something that we don't like. There's a whole nother level of badness. I mean,
That is.
there's nothing
evil.
in my word, my Father's word, or anything that tells me that that's okay. And nobody will ever convince me. I've had relationships with the Father God, and He saved me more times than I can even. This podcast is not long enough.
You and I both.
So
Yeah.
but there's but again we have there's an underlying thing going on in our nation by, I don't know if it's the wealthiest, I don't know if it's other countries, but apparently, at some point, people have to do a little bit more learning about what's real and not real, and really try to self-think. Let's get back to everybody. Let's think about, why do you wake up every morning and you have 15 things in your Facebook scroll that says you should hate these 10 people today?
That's your algorithm, of course.
Right, of course. And that's my point. So it's like we have to get to where we say, this is just so bizarre, it can't be, it in itself is not real.
Yeah. Yeah, the people just have to get to a point where they say, you know what, enough is enough on all this. It really is. Listen, I want to switch gears real quick, and I want to talk. I know early you were racing in your early career in NASCAR, and then you branched into actually owning your own racing league for a while with the Coma Unwind Series.
Yeah, we were the Tour Series sponsor.
The Tour Series sponsor, that's right.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to several of those races, and you were gracious and kind enough to let me actually do the green flag to start the race that time down there on the coast of North Carolina, over there close to Camp Lejeune.
Coastal Plains, yeah.
Coastal Plains, that's right. But I want you to talk a little bit about what's going on more recently. Just a few weeks ago, you hit it back in NASCAR.
Yeah.
You went down to Mexico and raced in that race there in Mexico. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. For a few years, I've been in, Robbie, I'm the guy that run 25 NASCAR races and raced different kind of cars. I've been a CEO of a publicly traded company, done all kinds of different things. I'm like the guy that you heard of, but nobody really knows.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because I've done things that, people dream about. And so for a couple of years, I've been communicating with a team owner in Mexico. The NASCAR Mexico Series is a 15 race series. They race ovals, which a lot of Americans don't even know they have ovals in Mexico, but they do. They got about 4 or 5 big ovals and a few road courses. And I'd started talking to David a couple of years ago about the possibility to drive in one of his cars, because he was recommended from another friend that he was a very righteous guy and that he wouldn't just take my money and sponsor money and so forth. Well, we didn't get to pull it off. We were going to try to do it last year, but it didn't. Timing wasn't right. The sponsors I had didn't really have any appetite for that. So over the fall of last year, my partner's now Crypto Black Gold, which is a digital currency, a utility currency that's linked to oil. He was my sponsor 20 years ago in a prepaid debit business on my Busch Series car. So we've maintained a conversation and just a business connection. So we were talking about it. He said he would back me, and I'm like, oh, that would be because digital currency is an everywhere thing. It's and our product, crypto black gold, is got some very strong ties to Latin America because part of the founding group is out of El Salvador, and the political families down there and so forth. I can't go too much deeper in that one, but so I started the dialogue with David back in January. I said, I think we can make it happen. Which are my race options? And he said, well, I wanted to go to Aguascalientes, which is a 1 mile or just slightly under 1 mile oval, and do that. And that's the one that worked out where I was able to get down there, I guess, the second week of June. I flew down a couple days early, got the seat in, and went to their shop, met all their team. I can't say anything, a single word bad about that group of hard-working guys. They had 2 teams. They're in the points chase. Eloy Falcone and Regina Savant. They're both racing for him in his series. And I was in the 3rd car with the Crypto Black Gold car, and we flew from Mexico City over to Aguascalientes, and got to get out there. And I hadn't ever been out of the country racing. I'd never seen a NASCAR Mexico car, which they're uniquely different, but race cars are race cars. You go fast, you turn left, and you try to go as faster than the other guys. I was not super fast. I should have been faster. By the time it was over, I was as fast as I should have been when I started, but I'd never been there. I had no experience there. Couple of the drivers we were flying over there whispered to my team owner in Spanish, and I asked David, I said, what did they say? And he said, well, they asked me if I told you yet that the last 5 Americans hit the wall off of turn 2 and crashed their cars. And I was like, I had that in the back of my head that, to survive this racetrack would be my first challenge.
There you go.
We got there to the track and went through the inspection process. And again, they were the host, the team, the media, every part of that was really very, very, it's their premium series. They're much like our late model sportsman series here as far as the car, but the show is big. I mean, they had a flyover, the military band. It was a very well done project, practiced out there, and they have some bumps in that track that I didn't really figure out how to navigate until I was in the race over 80 miles. It was 170 laps, and by about lap 70, I finally realized what I'd been doing wrong. And by that time, I was off the pace on the laps. But at the end of the race, I had my own engineer and my own data acquisition. He actually told me that had I been on the lead lap, I would have finished 15th, which, again, first race. This whole 34-car field was separated by less than a second. So all things considered, I came out of there. I did not hit the wall, and I got out of the car, and, again, we flew back.
Well, that's awesome.
It's a great experience.
Just watching some of the video footage from that race and seeing the fans, even after the race, the little kids coming up, getting autographs from you and everything. It just seemed like they were just so appreciative.
Oh yeah, I got
of
mobbed.
The drivers.
It was, I don't know if it's because I'm American. I don't know if it's because I'm old. I don't know what it is, but it was great to sting around. I literally couldn't stay much longer. I could have signed autographs for another hour, but I had a plane to catch. Yeah. And but it was a fantastic experience. They welcoming, and I can't wait to get back. To be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do another one this year, probably.
When would that race be?
It may be. There's one more event at Aguascalientes. I may wind up going back there for the second one.
Okay.
If not, I may go to one of their other tracks. But I do have a commitment that I can do another one. And again, David and I become more friends, and I'm going to help him with some business things in America. He has a fiberglass manufacturing business where they make fiberglass components. and I've got, as you well know, a plethora of contacts in America that I'm connecting dots to try to help him with his business connections, and vice versa. So with the crypto black gold, he's got some business leaders in his country that may be, interested in investing at this level. The crypto black gold started at $1 last November, and it's over $3 now. So, and it's not even gone on. It's not even gone on to the main trading platforms yet. It's available at IndoX, which is a smaller trading platform. But I suspect when it hits another gear and it gets to the next level, it's a process. It's probably going to shoot up to whatever, $10 or $12 or $30 or who knows. But I knew that when they approached me with the opportunity, I passed on Bitcoin back in '09. At a $1,000 investment in 2009 would be worth about $10 million now.
Listen, everybody that's listening right now to Brian, this might be one of the best investments that you can make right now with this company.
Again, I know the team, I know the business plan, and I'm very fortunate, which it's all available on the Black Gold Ecoverse website.com. So you can investigate for yourself. The team is, they got a good, strong business plan. It's not a rush to market. It's not going to be here today and gone tomorrow. They've got a strong plan with some government approvals coming down for Central America that will, pull another gear. And it's just for its longevity. If you get the endorsement from a country, that's kind of a big deal. So we're definitely moving to a digital currency world,
Oh, we are, and we're already probably at about 95% digital money anyway. When was the last time anybody got a paycheck that was actually paper?
Right, yeah.
Seriously, it's just obsolete now. I'm trying to think the last time I actually wrote a check. Everything's digital now. You pay online, you pay with a debit card, whatever, but it's all digital. I want to switch gears to what just happened this past weekend, and I believe you're in the top 10 in points right now, but you actually had a chance to go race at a really big time track in Iowa at the Iowa Motor Speedway. That's a little bit east of Des Moines, which sits right in the middle of the state. I've been there. I've been to that track. So tell us a little bit about that experience this past weekend.
Well, I got to wind back about 6 months. 6 months ago, a friend of mine, Rita Marie Goulet, was changing paths in her life, let's say, from her spouse. And I'd only seen Rita once in years. I met her 5.5 years ago at a counter in a place in Mooresville looking for parts for a car.
Yeah.
And she had just driven in from Alabama. She was a Tuscaloosa sergeant, and she wanted to follow her dreams in racing. And, a 38-something-year-old woman, I was intrigued. So we talked a little bit, and I know that story. I moved from New York to North Carolina to follow my dreams in racing. I loaded up my truck, and I went. Well, this woman was loading up her car, and she went. And that day, she bought a car to go race in the ARCA Menards Series with no experience. I mean, she literally bought a race car. Should be the title of her book. Anyways, fast forward 5 years, her personal life took a change, and she was going to put her equipment that she had, wound up with into some storage and just take the year off. And she and I texted a little bit, just catching up. I'm sorry to hear it, whatever. And sometime in January, I said, instead of putting it in storage, why don't you put your stuff in, partner with me at my shop, and let's do some racing. I've got a race shop. I've got my open wheel modifieds that I've raced. I said, maybe I can race a few races, and then I'll help you do a few of your races, because that was why she did all this. I mean, the whole purpose of investing, moving, changing. I mean, she's still a police officer in North Carolina, but I'm like, I can help you accomplish your goals. You can help me accomplish my goals. And, it seemed like a good fit.
She's tough.
Yeah, she's a tough woman. And, she's been through some things, and, sometimes life is hard on us, both sides of the coin. But so she moved everything in, and I said, why don't we do this East Series thing? It's an 8-race ARCA Menards East. I said, you do 4, I'll do 4. And then we'll see what happens. We'll make some plans. So we started working on a plan, and I got my boys, including myself, put the car together. We went to the first race at Hickory with the intention to just make a few laps to see if the car was intact, And it's only 20 miles from our shop. We did that. We had a clutch problem, but we figured that out. Week later, we went to Rockingham, North Carolina on the 1 mile super speedway. I hadn't been there in 20 years in the Busch Series days, and I came out of there with an 11th place finish with a bunch of guys that, my friends and colleagues, and no full-time employees, but we finished 11th. And then I stepped away from the car, and then Rita got in and helped develop her as a driver. So she came off of Flat Rock last week, 2 weeks ago, out of Michigan with a 15th place finish. And her races, she finished all 4 races, and I'm so proud of her. She did a great job. She's learned to become a better race car driver. So after that race, I drove the tractor-trailer across the country from Flat Rock, Michigan, straight to Newton, Iowa, and set up camp there with a mutual friend's trucking shop to get the car. I mean, Rita's 5 feet tall, so we had little pedal extensions on, and I had to, get the car ready for a 250-pound driver, not a 114-pound driver with short legs. So I got the car all ready, and we were entered for the race at the Iowa Speedway there for the ARCA Menards 150. And I brought a good buddy of mine. I want to say I brought him out of retirement, but I opened the door, and he came through it. He is from Iowa, and his father was a former ARCA champion, USAC champion, Daytona pole winner. And Corey came out, and he helped us for the day. And he hadn't been to an event in 12 years because he walked away from the sport.
Yeah.
He came out, and he lent his knowledge and helped our little team, become a little bit better of team. And we came out of there with a 17th place finish out of 33 cars. I ran the whole race. I was on a lead lap for the first 30 miles, which was good. Got a little wonky there in the middle. I had a couple laps bad, where I got a little loose and, racing stuff. But at the end of the day, this little team came out with 17th, and I didn't need paramedics when I got out of the car. It was very hot. There were 2 or 3 drivers that needed medical assistance. I was not one of them. And packed it up, drove it back 1,000 miles back to the house. After the race, I literally drove 1,003 miles. And I slept and drove a semi-truck and got home. And we find ourselves now that we're tied for 10th place in the owner's points. And that's pretty impressive for a team with no full-time employees. Our budget is about probably, 15% of what we really need. But we got a lot of heart. And, between her and I, she's the future of our program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna do a few more races here and there. I got one more coming up at Bristol Motor Speedway in September, which is, they call it the Thunderdome. It's a very fast bowl, and it's a lot of media exposure. And I've run there twice. I'm excited to go, but it's gonna take a minute to get. That's a place where it's like being thrown in a blender. So it's an interesting racetrack, but I'm excited that I'm going to be doing that one coming up in a few weeks.
Well, Brian, yeah, that's literally 2 hours from right here in Roanoke, because you're going to be, we call it Tennagenia or Virginia C, right there in Bristol.
Yeah.
So we look forward to you doing that race in just a few weeks. Brian, we've only got a couple more minutes. Is there anything you want to tell, like young people out there that may want to get into racing? You're from a guy, and you being the guy that has done all sorts of cool things and never took no for an answer. Is there anything you'd like to talk to these young people about?
Well, I mean, you're spot on there. My dad's gone, not part of this world now, but he encouraged me to just never give up. While he wasn't into racing, I'm first generation. He did encourage me. My family, I've been very good. I've been very blessed. I had a good family. They didn't pour money into my life, but they did pour, love into my life. They did pour knowledge into my life, and always pointed me in a direction to try to be as best I could be. and not to give up. Not to give up. That things that are come to you in your life are hurdles that they're learning experiences. So it doesn't matter if you want to be a doctor or a race car driver or own your own business or anything else. The best thing I could say is to align yourself with whoever will help you that has been successful and successful story, and just go for it. The risk and reward being an entrepreneur can be very painful, as you well know. However, at the same time, I've been to 16 countries. I've been on the beach with Jennifer Lopez, and had her arm around me in a music video shoot.
Yeah.
I've raced NASCAR. I've done things, and quite honestly, when I look back, I'm like, man, who is that guy? I don't even know sometimes how many pieces of a puzzle this puzzle is. But as we get older in our life, that puzzle starts to fill itself in. But I just want to, move on and be remembered for the guy that helped as many people as he could and did it my way. And I also have to reach out and tell you, briefly, I know we're out of time here in a minute. My buddy Daisy Ramirez, who you know very well, we've been friends for more than 20 years. And just 2 weeks ago, she sponsored me on this racing at Iowa with her new product called Belong Here. It's an Apple app, and it's a companion app that, it's a place where you don't have to be alone. And I can't tell you how proud I am of her building this. She did this perfect example. She taught herself how to teach herself how to build something. And I can barely work the remote on the TV. This woman built an app on an Apple store that helps you not feel alone. It's a companion, and it's just launched a week and a half ago, and it's amazing how it works, and it's amazing. I know the person that made it, and she did this completely. She taught herself to write code so that
she taught herself English too, because she's from the Dominican Republic.
English, 20 something years ago when I met her, looking at subtitles on television. And again, she taught herself code to build an app to help people to not feel alone. And I can't tell you enough how excited I am for her future with that, and how proud I am of her for doing that. And it's a perfect story about, if you want to, you just got to take the bull by the horns in life itself. And do the best you can. And if you stay as righteous as you can and don't fall to doing things that are, sometimes we have bad things happen to us, the righteous. We weather a lot of bad things, and it's difficult. But at the end of the day, it's the right way. So.
Well, you're right about that. So, Brian, I'm going to wrap this up real quick, but let me say this for everybody else out there to hear. Brian, I want to thank you for your support with what I've been doing the past decade or so. And you've been a mentor, someone, we're about the same age, but still, you were an entrepreneur way before I was. Okay. I was still just collecting a paycheck as a coach for a long time. But you've been a mentor, you've been a friend, and you've helped me through some very, very tough spots, and you're that guy. I've been on quite a journey, and I've met some really, really incredible dynamite individuals. You're one of those people, and we're blessed to have you on here today. And everybody, y'all need to go check him out. This next race that's coming up in Bristol, let's have a big turnout there for Brian Weber.
Yeah, and I want to see you down there too. I want to see you come down and bring your people, and we'll get.
Yeah, we can do that. We're right here, so yeah, and then that's going to be September what?
17th. It's a Thursday night race. It'll be live on Fox Sports.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, and if anybody
September
wants 17th.
The 17th is a Thursday night race in Bristol. Yep. Anybody that knows anything about racing knows that Bristol is one of the most exciting short tracks that you're ever going to come in contact with. Oh. One little piece of trivia that people don't even know, Virginia Tech played the University of Tennessee in football there a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's one of the largest crowds to ever watch a college football game was right there at Bristol. So with that being said, Brian, thank you so much for being here. Everyone that's tuning in, make sure that you tune in for the next couple of weeks. We've got some more big time guests that are going to be on here. Rise up.
All right. Take care now.
What do you do when life knocks you down? You rise up. In Touchdown America, coach, speaker, and presidential candidate Robby Wells shares his remarkable journey through football, politics, adversity, and second chances. Packed with hard-won wisdom and powerful inspiration, this must-read memoir will challenge you to pursue your dreams, learn from every setback, and rise again. Get your copy of Touchdown America today.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, are we back live, Jason? Oh, okay. So we're back live. Listen, that was quite a treat to be able to go back through the history of racing with Brian Weber and some of the other great things he's done as an entrepreneur. Make sure that you tune in next week. We got a special guest, and it's a surprise who that guest is. So be there.
Thanks for joining us on Rise Up with Robby. If today's conversation encouraged or challenged you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this live stream with your family and friends. Join us again every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Until next time, keep your faith strong, keep moving forward, and remember, it's always time to rise up.